Hey guys, so Yelan is rerunning in about a week, and I know a bunch of people are interested in putting on her banner. Plus, I know some of you are newer players trying to clear the end game, or you're looking for consistent teams for the end game. So I'm focusing this video mostly on Hyperbloom and how useful Yelan is for that. So Hyperbloom, first of all, in specific, Nahida, Shinobu, plus at least one Hydra member. These are the teams I'm talking about, and for me, one of my absolute favorite teams when I stream helping players clear the abyss. Just from my experience, these Nahida Hyperbloom teams are a very powerful core for progressing to 36 star, and I think at this point I've done over 100 view abysses, and I'd say maybe a third to 50% of the time I have some Nahida Shinobu Hydro core on either the top half or the bottom half, but a lot of that is for newer players. And if you're not a newer player, it's really easy for these teams not to be really anything outstanding, but we'll get into that later in the video. So first of all, Yelan isn't really a core member of Hyperbloom. As I said, she is commonly used, but the core is more like Nahida, Shinobu, and a Hydro character. And yeah, from my experience, honestly, I really do consider Nahida part of the Hyperbloom core, and this might be contrary to other people's opinions, but for me, if you have to use a scuffed Hyperbloom team, like if you don't have Nahida, maybe you have to use Dendro Traveler or Yao Yao or someone. Honestly, these teams aren't really that great options, even if you're a newer player who doesn't have much to work with. I genuinely think Hyperbloom by itself is not some magic savior of damage, whereas someone like Neuvillette, even in a scuffed team, he can actually be a big deal, and you can even get pretty far brute forcing at the end game, even without a perfect team for him. So these Hyperbloom teams, they're very easy to play. I'm sure you all know you can basically do almost anything, but how strong are they really? So I've been doing a bunch of Abyss the last 2 days, and like I said, if you're an end game account, as for clear times, most Hyperbloom teams aren't even that impressive. So I did a bunch of runs with this team. These are my constellations. These are the weapons I'm using, 4-star weapons, and then I'm using a 5-star on Yelan, since this can also help you judge if you want to go for her weapon or not. But I did runs with this team, and then I compared that with a team removing Hyperbloom and then just adding a bunch of buffs with Kazuha and Furina.
Out of my way! Our bond is strong! This may pretty little. Quietly now.
One with wind and cloud.
Quietly now. Things are about to get dicey. Get with me. Time to shine. Busted. Make yourselves at home. Witness the power of Gua. Game's up. Time's over. Grow, grow, grow. Let's play pretty little. Gotcha. Committed to memory. Dissipate. Let me weave you a verse. Rain outlines. Let's play pretty little. Things are about to get dicey. Quietly now. Committed to memory. Gotcha. Here comes the catch.
Fallen leaves. Adorn.
Let my name echo in song. Get with me. Out of my way.
Supreme strike.
Shower me with praise. Let the world come on. Things are about to get dicey. Lightning shower. Quietly now.
This was honestly a pretty fun team. You kind of play Yelan as like your on-field DPS. Of course, you still get some nice sub DPS damage from Furina, but this was quite fun. And in terms of clear times, you can see still without constellations, still with 4-star weapons apart from Yelan. And this is not a famous team. This is not a super strong raw damage team. But you can see Hyperbloom isn't really better than this. If you're someone like me who's been playing for a long time, you've got nice artifacts, you've got built characters, so you can see how it can quote unquote fall off the longer you play. So if you want to pull Yelan, you don't need to play Hyperbloom teams like that. You can focus more on raw damage. You can use it as a sub DPS, you can use it as a main DPS. But still, even if you've been playing for a long time, I can still recommend Hyperbloom teams. They're still very nice for comfortable clears, a consistent, comfortable team. And it's quite nice to have teams like this in your back pocket. You might not always want to be playing the most try-hard teams anyway. So here's another question: Hyperbloom teams without Yelan. So in calculations, you can see various Hyperbloom teams having fairly similar DPS depending on the gear and assumption. They're all reasonably within the same amount of damage, at least theoretically, but from my experience, practically the main differences between some of these Hyperbloom teams is AoE, and I would say it kind of goes like this, with the 4-star team without Yelan having the least AoE, and you can see that especially in Chamber 1 of the current Abyss, and then Yelan improving on that team's AoE, and then Alhaitham teams having the most AoE. But you can even use Furina instead of Yelan with Alhaitham for even more AoE. But in single target, a lot of these 4-stars can keep up very well. So Yelan isn't necessarily needed, but I should say that, of course, getting 4-stars and having 4-star constellations is never guaranteed. No one is guaranteed a C6 fischl, a C6 Xingqiu, C6 Beidou, as you guys know. And if you haven't been playing the game for a few years and you don't have all these C6 4-stars, without them, even characters that are considered strong like Xingqiu can be a lot weaker than you might think. Whereas you can guarantee a C0 5-star like Yelan, and Yelan can strengthen a weakened low constellation Xingqiu, for example, in a team like this. But just for comparison's sake, I thought I'd show you an Abyss clear with fischl instead of Yelan, just so you can see if Yelan is improving the team that much. Bear in mind, I'm even using the stringless with fischl here instead of Aqua Simulacra, although she has really good artifacts.
Our bond is strong. Let me weave you a verse. Huh? By royalty, I'll settle this. Yeah, committed to memory.
Midnight Phantasmagoria.
Grow. Get with me. Witness the power of Gua. Know my sword. Lightning shower. outlines your odds revealed. Committed to memory. Row. Sharing my knowledge. The bond is strong. I'll settle this. Let me weave you a purse. Know myself. Midnight phantasm. Stand with me. Lightning. Witness the power. Committed to memory.
As you wish.
Our bond is strong. This way.
But you can see, aside from the first chamber, the clear times are very similar, even though fischl has a 4-star weapon. And that's because, like I said, a team like this, you definitely do feel that it struggles in AoE. I will say though, in my experience, Yelan does make these teams feel much more comfortable than fischl. First of all, Hydro Res increasing your team's HP, making them less squishy. Secondly, Yelan's skill is just a lot less clunky and fluid moving around compared to moving around with Oz. And then, like I said, if you're an Alhaitham main, Yelan isn't needed either. She's still pretty good, but honestly, many players prefer either Furina for increased damage and more AoE, or Xingqiu instead for extra survivability. You also need to know that when it comes to investing in your Yelan, the team you're playing has an impact on how valuable each investment is. For example, another weakness of Hyperbloom is, since Yelan has a lot less buffs in these teams are more focused on the Hyperbloom reaction damage. That means Yelan is doing less of your team's damage, meaning the upgrade you might get for her weapon, maybe her artifacts, maybe her constellations, is a lot less in a Hyperbloom team compared to a team where she's doing more of your team's damage, like a team like this or a mono hydro team like this. Like say for example, in a mono hydro team, going from Fav Warbow to Aqua Simulacra, it can be up to a 40% damage increase. And if Yelan's doing a lot of damage in this team, going from about 420k damage per rotation to almost 600k damage per rotation, that is a lot of extra damage. And like I said, it's not just about weapons and constellations, it can also be about artifact upgrades. Like if you get some extra HP rolls, maybe a crit damage roll, that increase is going to be more of an upgrade in teams where she does more of the damage too. So there's definitely some considerations depending on how much you want to invest into your Yelan, which is still a very flexible character that can work in a bunch of teams. If people are interested, I can make videos talking about other teams involving Yelan. Just let me know in the comments what kind of questions you might have. But yeah, just as a general recommendation, a Hyperbloom team like this is something that is pretty easy for me to recommend, honestly, just as long as you're not looking for some insane speedrunning team. And yeah, hopefully you guys found this video helpful or interesting. And bye for now.